Good day, everyone. I'm Monila from Team prepZone. Today. I'm going to discuss verbal ability and logical reasoning section of XAT 2022. As we all know, XAT is known for its difficult English section. So today, I'm gonna help you out with how to solve this infamous section with utmost accuracy and what could we have done to meet the cutoff. So let's look at the paper. Let's begin with question number 1. The first question relates to which of the following options are grammatically correct. So we are looking for options which are grammatically correct. So in such questions, normally what we do, we look at the sentences which are given to us, and then we move to options. Okay, so let's begin with this. The first sentence is, have you any clothes to dispose of? Now you might get confused with dispose of, which is OF and OFF. In this case, both the offs are correct. So dispose of is correct here. I can hold it. Sentence 2, I saw a pleasant dream last night. So when we talk of dream, we never say I saw. It was rather I had. So instead, this sentence, statement number 2 is incorrect. Third sentence, I have done it many a times safely. So when we talk of many a times, with many a, we never use times, we always use time, many a time. So sentence 2 is incorrect, sentence 3 is incorrect, sentence 4, students struggle to cope up with academic pressure. Now, if we understand the correct usage of it, we always cope with something, not cope up with something. So the usage of up is wrong here. It is redundant in nature. So sentence 2, 3, 4 are incorrect. Let's look at 5. You need not give negative feedback to your employees. So here subject, verb, idioms, everything is correct. We can hold it. Sixth sentence, my friend is good at playing football. So when somebody is good, we always say you're good at something. So sentence 1, 5, 6 are correct. So if you look at this, the answer would be option B. Moreover, if you want to see, the easiest way of handling this question was starting with option 3. So when you say many a times, it is always many a time. So if you understand the sentence 3 is incorrect, you could have easily eliminated option C, D, E, and then you would have remained with 4, 5, 6, and then it is easy to reach option B. Let's look at question number 2. The question number 2 relates to a poem, and it relates to answering the questions based on this poem. So let me just read out the poem to you first, and then we'll move to the question. It says, I smiled at you because I thought that you were someone else. You smiled back, and there grew, between two strangers in a library, something that seemed like love, but you loved me. If that's the word, because you thought that I was other than I was. And by, we found we had been mistaken all the while from the first glance, that first mistaken smile. So, this particular poem is about a person who saw somebody, smiled at the person, and the person smiled back and he felt that they fall in love. But gradually he realized that this was a mistake. So here we are looking for a poem, and the question states here, which of the following cannot be inferred from the poem? If we understand this, we need to identify what can't be inferred from this poem. So let's look at options. The first one, the idea of love is different for different parties involved. Now, when we look at this, it seems like it may be answer because it feel like the first part is dealing with what the first person is thinking, what the second person is thinking, right? So we may get confused, but here if you read it carefully, it says if that's the word, this highlights that two people consider love quite in a different manner. So option A is quite can be inferred from this poem, hence we should hold it. Option B, Love may start with small acts like glancing and smiling. That we can infer from the first part of the poem, where the author says, I smiled at you because I thought that you were someone else, and you smiled back. So it's like starting with glances, smiling, and he believes that the love has started, right? Option C, we make mistakes in love. This is very evidently given in second part of the poem, where it says, we found we had been mistaken all the while from that first glance, that first mistaken smile. So we make mistakes in love. That's evidently given to us. Option D, we don't fall in love with others, but with ourselves. Here, in this particular poem, the first person is falling in love with the other person, not with himself or herself. So this cannot be inferred. I can hold this. And option E, we fall in love with strangers. That's very clearly given in the first part, because when it says between two strangers, that means there are two people who are strange to each other. They are strangers and they still fell in love with each other. So answer here for second question is option D. Let's move to third question. Third question is a question wherein you are supposed to fill the blank with the given words. Okay. So the question says, which of the following options will best fill up the above blanks meaningfully? So we are looking for the words which fits the context nicely. To understand the same, we should first of all refer to the context. Let's begin with the first. The moment we no longer have a free press. So the author is talking about the notion of free press. Okay. So it says, the moment we no longer have a free press, anything can happen. What makes it dash for totalitarian or any other dictatorship to rule is that dash are not informed. So who are not informed? So we're not talking about the dictator's immediate subordinates. Rather, here, if you understand the context, if there is a free press, right, there could be a problem. But if you no longer have a free press, anything can happen. So what makes it easy or controllable for a totalitarian or dictatorship to rule is that no one is informed. Rather, masses or public are not informed, right? And then semicolon makes it easier because it says, how can you have an opinion if you're not informed? So you're not informed, the masses are not informed, hence they do not have opinion, right? Look at the second part. If everybody always lies to you, the dash is not that you believe the lies, but rather that nobody believes anything any longer. The sentence seems quite confusing. So you stop and reread, go back to it. Look for the part where it says, but rather nobody believes anything longer, which means the author is talking about the believing. Okay. The first fragment says, if everybody lies to you, the dash is not that you believe the lies. So what is we are talking about? If everybody speak lies, what happens? The result is not that you believe the lies, but rather nobody believes anything any longer. Okay. Last fragment. This is because lies by their very nature have to be changed, and a lying government has dashed to rewrite its own history. So what are they going to rewrite? They're going to rewrite their own history time and again. So we say again and again they have to rewrite their history. So based on this analysis, we should hit the options. Let's look for the words like, let's begin for the fourth blank. We can start off with the fourth one or the first one, whatever you feel easy. Okay. So I will pick up with the fourth one. So I want to see something. A lying government has to rewrite its own history time and again and again. So when I say again and again, in option A, it says forced. Cannot be there. Unusually, no, because it's not unusual. We're looking for repeatedly rewriting its own history. Enough is again not sufficient. No reason is out of context, so we can end up with constantly, right? Moreover, if you see, Now, if you can fit the words in the context, it becomes easier. The moment we no longer have a free press, anything can happen. What makes it possible for a totalitarian or any other dictatorship to rule is that people are not informed. How can you have an opinion if you're not informed? If everybody always lies to you, the consequence is that you believe the lies, but rather nobody believes anything any longer. This is because lies, by their very nature, have to be changed, and the lying government has constantly to rewrite its own history. So, constantly means time and again, right? Similarly, you might have started with the first word, which is easy. If you look at easy, cannot be unique, cannot be necessary, cannot be unpleasant, cannot be absurd also. Similarly, if you take up the second word, subjects could have been removed easily, senators could have been removed easily. And if you look at the third word also, we're looking for result, not the beauty, reason, joy, so or fact. So you could have picked up any of the words, and there is easy elimination in this question, which makes it like you should have attempted it. Okay, let's look at question number 4. The question for number 4 depends on a passage, and it says read the passage carefully to answer the question. The passage is geologists have been investigating a potential cycle in geological events for a long time. Back in 1920s and 30s, scientists of the era had suggested that geological record had a 30 million year cycle. While in 80s and 90s, researchers used the best dated geological events at the time to give them a range of the length between pulses of 26.2 to 30.6 million years. Now everything seems to be in order. 27.5 million years is right about where we would expect. A study late last year suggested that this 27.5 million year mark is when mass extinctions happen too. And the question says, which of the following statements can be best concluded from the passage? So we have to look about what can be concluded from this. Before we move to options, we should at least think about it. What is the paragraph talking about? So the paragraph is talking about some geological events happening in a cycle. And there was a period also discussed. So initially they were thinking that there used to be 30 million year cycle, but later on they realized that it has to be 27.5 million years too. Okay. Moreover, if you understand, it's talking about extinctions also happening during this 27.5 million year mark, right? So we have to look for a conclusion which best covers up the maximum part of it. So let's begin with option A. Option A says, not all species go extinct once every 27.5 million years. If we understand, the passage does mention that extinctions happen every 27.5 million years, but it doesn't state that yes, all the species, not all the species, but yes, most of the species. Moreover, this is not the primary purpose or the main idea of the passage or the best conclusion of the passage, because the idea is not only restricted to extinction, so this goes out. Option B, pulse between geological events is constant. So when we talk of pulse, the author stated the pulse ranged from 26.2 to 30.6. And in general, it is happening around 27.5 years, 27.5 million years, which if we understand, it's not a constant value. So this also gets eliminated. Option C, all species go extinct once every 27.5 million years. If we see this, the passage talks about mass extinction. Again, as I discussed in option A, the author did not say all species or not all species. So this again goes out of context. This is against the context rather. Option D, geological disasters happen sporadically. Now this word sporadically is out of context. Last option, mass extinctions and geological pulse are correlated. Since author discussed that geological events and mass extinctions happened around the same time, that is 27.5 million year mark. So we can assume, or rather we can see that the things are connected. So option E is the best available option to us. Question number 5. So again, this is a fill in the blank question. So as I stated earlier that we should rather understand the context first before moving to options. So let's look at the context. When I ask people to name 3 recently implemented technologies that most impact our world today, they usually propose the computers, the internet, and the laser. So there were 3 things. They are implemented and they impacted a lot. All 3 were unplanned dash and dash. For sure, I know one thing, if there is and, I need synonyms of unplanned. If not synonyms, but if unplanned is a negative word, I'm looking for 2 more negative words here, right? And it says unplanned dash and dash upon their discovery and remain dash well after their initial use. Since there is and again here, this again means the idea doesn't change. The idea remains the same on the same line. So rather we are looking for a negative word here. So what I'm looking for, 3 words which are negative. So let's start with option E. Astonishing, superb, superb, positive word. So this goes out of context. Similarly, D, astonishing, amazing, amazing. So this is also again out of context. Okay, it goes out of context because these words are positive. Surprising, fulfilling, unfulfilling. So surprising and fulfilling are positive words, again gets eliminated. Option B, amazing, shocking, shocking. Shocking, shocking is fine, but amazing is a positive word, so this also goes out. So left with option A, unpredicted, unappreciated, unappreciated. So it says all the 3 things were unplanned, unpredicted, and unappreciated upon their discovery. So they were not, appreciated a lot, and they remain unappreciated well after their initial use. So people used it and they didn't understand the usage of the same. So it remained unappreciated. So answer is the first one. Let's look at question number 6. In this question, we are asked to you look for the incorrect usage of preposition. So some preposition has gone wrong and we have to identify that. First sentence, the manager was sitting at the desk. So when we say manager was sitting at the desk, the sitting is always followed by at. So this is correct. My work is superior to yours. Superior is always followed by to. This is also correct. I prefer coffee than tea. People do understand that prefer is never followed by than. It is always followed by to. So 3 is an incorrect one. Okay. And you can also see in all the options, 3 is mentioned clearly. Sentence 4. She was accused for stealing gold. Accused is always followed by of, not by for. So 4th is also incorrect. So if we look at 4th, option A goes out and option E goes out. We are still left with option B, C, D. Look at option sentence 5. This is an exception to the rule. Exception is always followed by to, so this is correct. The last sentence, they're leaving to England soon. Here, the leaving should be followed by for, not by to. So the incorrect sentences were sentence 3, 4, and 6. Consequently, the answer is C. This being an easy question, I would prefer if you people could attempt the same. This is one of the easiest questions here. Look at question number 7. Arrange the following sentences in a logical sequence. So this is a parajumble. We are supposed to use it, make the complete sense of it. Let's look at the first sentence. But when it comes to companies that lack computer programmers, the government is far more sympathetic. One thing I'm sure of when I read this is it starts with what, so I'm looking for a contrast. But what is a contrast of what? We need to explore it further. Second sentence. As a result, limited access to foreign talents is a common gripe of tech founders and venture capitalists. Here, since it begins with as a result, so it's a consequence of something, but consequence of what? Again, we have to explore that. Option 3, sentence 3, sorry. And demand for the latter has soared among British startups. Since it says and, so I need something before this also. Fourth sentence. This is less inconsistent than it may seem. So we don't know what exactly is less inconsistent, but we can always identify the same. And the next one, an HGV driver takes between 6 and 10 weeks to train and a competent coder several years. Now, this seems the basic idea. Okay, so if you understand, this introduces the subject, the HGV driver, a competent coder. So to understand, ideally, sentence 5 is more towards understanding, the context. But again, from here, we can understand what exactly we can go through. Okay, so we need to have a generic idea followed by an example maybe of HGV driver, because it becomes specific over here. So let's see, how does it go? If you look at this word, the demand for latter in sentence 3, the demand for the latter. So what is latter? So we can see HGV driver, competent coder, there are two, and the latter would be coder. So I can identify that 5-3 is a pair. Now, if 5-3 is a pair, it becomes a bit easier because I can eliminate a couple of options at least. I can eliminate option A, I can eliminate option C, and I can eliminate option E. So we're left with option B and D. So 5 and 3. Okay. If you understand, if we are saying the demand for latter has soared among British startups, so what would be the result of it? If you understand, then the result would talk about limited access to foreign talent is a common gripe. So this is a common gripe of tech founders. So 2 should be followed by 3. So 2 should come after 3. Since 5-3-2 is a pair, right? It's a sequence. We can eliminate option D, left with option B. Also, if you understand sentence 1, but when it comes to companies that lack computer programmers, the government is far more sympathetic. And fourth sentence states, this is less inconsistent than it may seem. And then it describes in the next part, how inconsistent is it? So B is the best option available. Let's look at question number 8. Again, this is a parajumble, and we should refer back to the question first, and then we should try making the pairs. Sentence 1. In America, primary age pupils are on average 5 months behind, where they would usually be in maths and 4 months in reading, according to McKinsey and Consultancy. So there was something average thing, and these pupils are average 5 months behind. Okay. Sentence 2. As a new school year gets underway in many countries, the harm caused by a month of closure is becoming ever clear. So if you look at this, it says the beginning of the school. So the school is getting started, and there would be harm caused by the months of closure, right? Sentence 3, the crisis will accelerate that trend. Sentence 4, the damage is almost certainly worse in places like India and Mexico, where the disruption to schooling has been greater. Sentence 5, even before pandemic, parents around the world were growing more willing to pay for extra lessons in hope of boosting their children's education. So we look at this. First of all, let's try to make the pairs. If we understand, sentence 2 discusses the harm, right? And we have to understand what harm is discussed. Sentence 1 says that the students are getting behind what they used to be in average. So the harm is discussed in sentence 1, which is followed by sentence 4, where they are saying the damage is almost certainly worse in places like this and this, like India and Mexico. So sentence 1 and 4 are a pair which are discussing the harm, which is discussed in sentence 2. So 2, 1, 4 is a pair or is a sequence we are looking for. So option B, option C, option D can get eliminated quickly. Left with option A and E. Then it states, if you look at this, then we're left with two sentences. The crisis will accelerate that trend. So which trend are we talking about? When we look at the trend, if you look at the trend is discussed in sentence 5. When it says, even before pandemic, parents around the world were growing more willing to pay extra lessons in hope of boosting the scores. So if we understand this, here during pandemic, the schools were closed and the problem increased, and people are going to take more extra lessons. So they were already taking extra lessons, now they will be taking more extra lessons. So this is like a result from the crisis or from the harm that we can take. So 21453 is an ideal option because 5 and 3 should be placed at the end because it shows how parents deal with such problems. Let's look at question number 9. So again, it's a passage-based question and it's looking for conclusion. Let's look at the question on the passage first. One theory of the accidents is what experts call the Swiss cheese model. A slab of Swiss cheese has several holes randomly and unevenly distributed over its surface. If several slabs are stacked together, it would be impossible for something to slip through unless all the holes happen to line up. If even one slab doesn't align, the impending catastrophe will meet a layer of resistance and the worst is averted. Aviation professionals will tell you that plane crashes never happen for a single reason. There may be an identifiable primary factor, but it's usually a chain of events, an array of circumstances neatly piled in. Since the question asks us about the best conclusion from the passage, so first of all, let's understand the passage. The passage discusses that the catastrophe or the problems or the disasters do happen, but when they happen, it happens because of a chain of events. So it's not one factor which results in the same. It's rather the chain of events which results in catastrophe. If we understand this, author also states that there is an identifiable primary factor. So there are factors which you can identify, but it is not one factor which leads to it. It's rather the whole stuff leading to this. So the theory of accidents, what author called a Swiss cheese model, describes the same, that several slabs are stacked together, right? If several slabs are stacked together, it would be impossible for something to slip through unless all the holes happen to line up. So it's more like the problems are bound to happen if there are a lot of events leading to the same. So we have to look for the best conclusion from this. Let's move to options. Option A, averting catastrophe is actually easier than it seems. Author did not discuss about how to avert catastrophes, right? So this goes out. Option B, any historically relevant event is an accident because it involves a chain of preceding events. Author did not talk particularly about historically relevant events. This goes also out of context. Accidents cannot be averted since a chain of events have to be averted to avert accidents. Author did discuss about it that accidents cannot, author said that chain of events is there. But he didn't say that how to avert it clearly is not discussed, that the chain has to be averted. Author never said it specifically. Okay, even if you read the sentence, where he discusses about aversion, he states that if even one slab doesn't align, the impending catastrophe will meet a layer of resistance. The worst is to be averted, right? So there could be a resistance, right, which comes like some identifiable primary factor, but and that's how, if you understand that, and you can understand what is the resistance or the primary factor is, and you relate to it, then you can avert it. Otherwise it is difficult. Okay, so C is again not required. Option D, a catastrophe can be averted if preceding array of events meets resistance. And this is what author has discussed, that resistance is something which makes somebody, someone or something realize that there is a problem, and then they try to solve it. Last one, any disaster is a culmination of many events happening in a particular order. Author did not discuss this culmination of many events. So the best answer available over here is option D. Let's look at question number 10. Progress. Let's read the passage first. Stupidity is a very specific cognitive failing. Crudely put, it occurs when you don't have the right conceptual tools for job. The result is an inability to make sense of what's happening and a resulting tendency to force phenomena into crude, distorting pigeonholes. So the first paragraph is talking about what is stupidity, according to author. Second paragraph. This is easiest to introduce with a tragic case. British High Command during the First World War frequently understood trench warfare using concepts and strategies from the cavalry battles of their youth. As one of Field Marshal Douglas Haig's subordinates later remarked, they thought of the trenches as mobile operations at the halt. That is, as fluid battle lines with simple kibit that nothing in fact budged for years. Unsurprisingly, this did not serve them well in formulating a strategy. They were hampered beyond the shortage of material resources by a kind of conceptual obsolescence, a failure to update their cognitive tools to fit the task in hand. In at least some cases, intelligence actively abates stupidity by allowing pernicious rationalization. So here in this paragraph, author is describing what exactly is stupidity with the help of an example when the British High Command did not change their strategy. Rather, they stick to old strategy without considering the events at hand. Third paragraph. Stupidity will often arise in cases like this when an outdated conceptual framework is forced into service, mangling the user's grip on some new phenomenon. It is important to distinguish this from mere error. We make mistakes for all kinds of reasons. Stupidity is rather one specific and stubborn cause of error. Historically, philosophers have worried a great deal about the irrationality of not taking the available means to achieve goals. Tom wants to get fit, yet his running shoes are quietly gathering dust. The stock solution to Tom's quandary is simple willpower. Stupidity is very different from this. It is rather a lack of the necessary means, a lack of necessary intellectual equipment. Combating it will typically require not brute willpower, but the construction of a new way of seeing ourselves and on our world. Such stupidity is perfectly compatible with intelligence. Haig was by any standard a smart man. So if you understand, this last paragraph discusses about that willpower is something, that can bring in the change. Moreover, stupidity is discussed as something which is specific and stubborn cause of error. And author is describing what is irrationality, right? When by giving the example of Tom and all. Let's look at questions. The question states that which of the following statements best summarizes the author's view on stupidity? So what does author feel about stupidity? This is what we have to look for. Let's look at option first. Comprehending a problem by applying our existing world view is stupidity. So if you look at this, this matches with the example given by the author in context of British High Command when they uh, did not feel that they have to change their strategy or they have to look for other things while formulating the strategy. Right, so let's hold it because author has discussed something like this, that whatever their existing worldview was and they were stuck to it, right? So they could not understand a new phenomena and they were stuck with the, they identified the old problem and the old solution for the same problem. Let's look at option B. The inability to avoid forcing our current views on a new situation is stupidity. So if you understand this, author is defining the stupidity in terms of inability to impose our current views, right? So here, he's not forcing current views. He was forcing the old views, right? So this goes out of context, goes out. Option C, pushing an extant solution to fix an alien problem is stupidity. Similarly, option C is incorrect because if you understand, he needs to comprehend a problem. So he was pushing our extent solution to fix an alien problem. This is again not discussed. Option D, the inability to comprehend what is happening around us is stupidity. So author, when it's talk about D, it's too generic. It's not discussed specifically in the passage, goes out. Option E, the novelty of the problem in relation to our cognitive capacity is the cause of stupidity. Option E is partially correct, but A fits the most of the context. So A is a better answer than option E. Let's look at question number 11. Which of the following statements best explains why stupidity for a smart person is perfectly compatible with intelligence? Option A, intelligence is poorly defined and usually a perception, making it compatible with stupidity. Option B, new phenomena creates fear, rushing intelligent people to explain it to put others at ease. Option C, past successes make us believe that we are intelligent and capable of explaining any new phenomena. Option D, intelligent people are scared to admit their lack of knowledge and therefore try to explain everything, including things they do not understand. Option E, intelligence, when perceived through past successes, makes any rationalization of a new phenomena acceptable. Now, to understand this, author mentioned that to combat stupidity, one should break free from past by giving the example of British High Command. And indeed, he wrote that the construction of a new way of seeing ourselves and our world. So here, if you look at this, combating it will typically require not brute willpower, but construction of a new way to understand, to see the things in a new manner. So that is the only way where a smart person is perfectly compatible with intelligence, right? So here the best available option is option E, because here only the author talks about rationalizing a new phenomena, and that matches well with the context given to us. So answer should be option E. Let's look at our question number 12. Based on the passage, which of the following can best help a leader avoid stupidity? So we are talking about leader avoiding stupidity. So author, when he states that a person has to look at a new way of seeing oneself and the world, that is the best way to avoid stupidity, right? That is again given in the last paragraph. Such stupidity is perfectly compatible with intelligence, he goes by any standard as a smart man. So here, the only way to avoid stupidity is to being conscious of your current self, right? A new way of looking at oneself and the surroundings. So let's look at the options. Being ready to discuss with everyone before taking a discussion. Author has not discussed it, so this is out of context. Option B, being aware that our current answers are only applicable to the current context. So that matches with the context given to us, so we can hold it. Option C, being aware we are short of required resources. So resources again not discussed, out of context. Option D, be cautious in taking a decision until the future unfolds. So future again not discussed here. And option E again deals with future, which is again out of context. So the best answer is option B. Let's look at question number 13 now. So the question says, read the excerpt carefully and answer the question. So let's read the excerpt first. The overwhelming preponderance of people have not really decided what to believe, but rather have been socially conditioned or indoctrinated into their beliefs. They are unreflective thinkers. And the question says, what cannot be concluded? So we're looking for something which cannot be concluded. So if we look at this context, it says the overwhelming preponderance of people have not really decided what to believe, but they are socially conditioned into their beliefs. So it's not like what I believe, rather it is what how I am trained or how I'm designed by society to believe into certain things. And these people are called unreflective thinkers. Okay. So what we can understand from here is that unreflective thinkers are those thinkers who are socially conditioned into beliefs and they do not have their own beliefs. Okay, they cannot decide what to believe by themselves. So let's look at the options given to us and let's move. See, option A, a normal thinker finds it difficult to recognize what is happening to them. And that is what is discussed, that they're unreflective thinkers, so they find it difficult to recognize what's happening to them. So this is a correct inference, I can hold it. Option B, beliefs that appear normal and natural heighten their acceptance. This is also this can also be understood because when it talks about overwhelming preponderance, that is the acceptance rate is high because people are made to believe the same. Option C, a lot of people end up believing what they passionately oppose. Now, this is something which is not discussed. So the passionately opposing part is something which is not mentioned in the passage. So I'll hold it since I cannot conclude it from the excerpt. Option D, things that we do automatically need to be reflected upon. So that is something discussed that, okay, whatever we are made to believe, we believe, and we are unreflective. So one should start reflecting. So D can be hold. And option E, the inability to criticize one's belief leads to indoctrination. So that is again given that unreflective thinkers are indoctrinated. The same thing is given to us. So best answer available here is option C. Let's look at the next question. The next question again relates to the passage. The passage relates to bullshit, right? All bullshit essentially misrepresent is neither the state of affairs to which it refers, nor the belief of the speaker concerning the state of affairs. Those are what lies misrepresent by virtue of being false. Since bullshit need not to be false, it differs from lies in its misrepresentational intent. The bullshitter may not deceive us or even intend to do so, either about the facts or about what he takes the facts to be. What he does necessarily attempt to deceive us about is his enterprise. His only indispensably distinctive characteristic is that, in a certain way, he misrepresents what he is up to. This is the crux of the distinction between him and the liar. Both he and the liar represent themselves falsely as endeavoring to communicate the truth. The success of each depends upon deceiving us about that. But the fact about himself that the liar hides is that he is attempting to lead us away from a correct apprehension of reality. We are not to know what he wants to believe as something he supposes to be false. The fact about himself that the bullshitter hides, on the other hand, truth is that the truth values of his statements are of no central interest to him. What we are not to understand is that his intention is neither to report the truth or not to conceal it. This does not mean that his speech is anarchically impulsive, but that the motive guiding and controlling it is unconcerned with how the things about which he speaks truly are. It is impossible for someone to lie unless he thinks he knows the truth. Producing bullshit requires no such conviction. A person who lies is thereby responding to the truth, and he is to that extent respectful of it. When an honest man speaks, he says only what he believes to be true, and for the liar, it is correspondingly indispensable that he considers his statement to be false. So the question is again the inference. So he says, what can be inferred? Option one, if we go by this, it says both the liar and the bullshitter misrepresent the truth. The authors, if we understand, the author stated that bullshitter attempts to deceive us about his enterprise or what he's up to. But liar attempts to deceive the person, deceive us by attempting to lead us away from what he supposes to be true. So both do deceive, but their own way. But what we need to understand here is that bullshitter is neither guided or not misguided by the truth, right? So if we look at this, option A is incorrect because bullshitter does not misrepresent the truth. So this goes out. And even if I look in the same context, C is out, right? So the truth has no role to play with bullshitter. So neither in misrepresenting or in guiding. Option B, both the liar and bullshitter intend to deceive in their own ways. Yes, they both deceive, so I can hold it. The ways are different. That's why I should hold it. Option D, both the liar and bullshitter live in their own world of realities. Author nowhere discuss that they have different realities. And so consequently, it goes out. Option E, both the liars and bullshitters are not bound by any conviction. Conviction is again an outside idea. So the best answer available is option B. Let's look at question number 15. Why does the author say that bullshitter intention is neither to report the truth nor to conceal it? So when we look at this line, the bullshitter intention is neither to report the truth nor to conceal it. So here it is. To understand this, just let's read a sentence before it. So the sentence before it says, the fact about himself that bullshitter hides, on the other hand, is that the truth values of his statements are of no central interest to him. What we are not to understand is that his intention is neither to report the truth nor conceal it. So if we decode the last sentence, we understand bullshitter do not find truth to be useful. And that is why they are of no interest to him. So if we know that bullshitters are not working on truth at all, either in hiding or in reporting, that's why the author is just explaining the same, the idea given before with the help of these words. So let's look at the options to identify the answer. Option A, because bullshitters are not convinced about truth. So convincing part is not discussed. Bullshitters know the truth. They are least interested in the truth according to the paragraph. So this also goes out. Option C, bullshitters do not like to deceive. But we know bullshitters deceive. That's clearly given to us. And that's not the idea given over here. D says bullshitters do not find truth useful. This is clearly given because when it says the truth values are of no central interest to him. So this is something which is mentioned. And option E again goes out because respectfulness is not discussed. So answer is option D, Delhi. Let's look at question number 16. When will a liar best turn into a bullshitter? So if we understand the context, the passage discusses that the distinction between the liar and the bullshitter. In case of liar, he knows the truth and he tries to make us believe that what he supposes is false. But a bullshitter is somebody who is unconcerned about the truth, right? So the difference is that when will a liar turn into bullshitter? When he stops or thinking about the truth, right? He doesn't think about the truth, what is correct, what is incorrect, doesn't. Okay. So if you look at this, we have to understand how to approach options now. Let's look at option E. When a liar stops misrepresenting the state of affairs outside idea. When a liar lies to people about his intention, he's already a liar, that is why he's lying. Option C, when a liar focuses only on the outcome and not on lies. So as if we understand bullshitter, the truth is of no value to him, right? So this also goes out. So outcome, telling lies, this all relates to truth. Option A, when a liar stops responding to truth. So if it's not about responding to truth, it's being understanding that truth holds no value, right? So the answer is B, when a liar stops worrying about the correct comprehension of reality. So answer here would be option B. Let's move to question number 17. So the given passage is about what a good life looks like, right? Let's run through the paragraph quickly first, and then we'll move ahead with the questions. The passage is, what does a good life look like to you? For some, the phrase may conjure up images of a close-knit family, steady job, Victorian house at the end of street arched with oak trees. Others may focus on the goal of making a difference in the world, whether by working as a nurse or a teacher, volunteering, or pouring their energy into environmental activism. According to Aristotelian theory, the first kind of life would be classified as hedonic, the one which is based on pleasure, comfort, stability, and strong social relationship. The second one is eudaimonic, primarily concerned with the sense of purpose, fulfillment one gets by contributing to the greater good. The ancient Greek philosopher outlined these ideas in his treatise Nicomachean Ethics, and the psychological sciences have pretty much stuck them ever since when discussing the possibilities of what people might want out of their time on earth. But a new paper published in the American Psychological Association's Psychological Review suggests there is another way to live a good life. It isn't focused on happiness or purpose, but rather it's a life that's psychologically rich. What is a psychologically rich life? According to author Shige Oishi, a professor of psychology at University of Virginia, and Erin Westgate, an assistant professor of psychology at University of Florida. It's one characterized by interesting experiences in which novelty and or complexity are accompanied by profound changes in perspective. Studying abroad, for example, is one way that college students often introduce psychological richness into their lives. As they learn more about a new country's custom and history, they're often prompted to reconsider the social mores of their own cultures. Deciding to embark on a difficult new career path or immersing oneself in avant-garde art, the paper that gives a specific shout out to James Joyce Ulysses, could also make a person feel as if their life is more psychologically rich. Crucially, an experience doesn't have to be fun in order to qualify as psychologically enriching. It might even be hardship, living through a war or a natural disaster might make it hard to feel as though you're living a particularly happy or purposeful life. But you can still come out of the experience with psychological richness, or you might encounter less dramatic but nonetheless painful events, infertility, chronic illness, unemployment, Regardless of the specifics, you may experience suffering, but still find value in you, how your experience shapes your understanding of yourself and the world around you. So the passage deals with what is a good life, how is hedonic life different from eudaimonic life. Author also discusses what is psychologically rich life. So let's move to the questions. The first question deals with the first question is which of the following statement best contrast hedonic from eudaimonic. So if we understand from the first paragraph, the author very clearly stated here that hedonic is based on pleasure, comfort, stability, strong social relationships, while the second one is concerned with the sense of purpose and fulfillment by contributing to greater good. So let's look at options. Option A, hedonic focuses on emptiness from seeking pleasure, while eudaimonic focuses on fulfillment by giving pleasure to others. So if we understand, this is incorrect because author did not talk about emptiness nor about giving pleasure to others. So A goes out. Option B, hedonic focuses on what gives pleasure to self, while eudaimonic focuses on what he or she believes benefits the society. Now, this is something which is given in the passage because pleasure to self is obviously discussed there. Pleasure, comfort, stability, that is, revolving around a person. So I can hold it. Option C, hedonic believes that pleasure leads to fulfillment. This is the idea which is nowhere discussed. And similarly, it says eudaimonic believes that fulfillment leads to pleasure. So ideas are new, not discussed in the paragraphs. This goes out. Option D, hedonic believes in seeking pleasure, while eudaimonic focuses on depriving oneself of pleasure. So we are not given this information that the second one doesn't want pleasure. Rather, we know that the second one gets fulfillment by contributing to greater good. So this goes out. Option E, hedonic focuses on pleasure to self, while eudaimonic focuses on pleasure to others. So eudaimonic never discusses about pleasure. So the best option given to us is option B. Let's move to question number 18. Which of the following statement best defines a psychologically rich life? So when author discusses her psychologically rich life, he discussed adding more experiences, and that's what we have to look for. So the experiences in which novelty and complexity are accompanied by profound changes in the perspective. So these things, these experiences should bring in some changes in the perspective, right? Which is very clearly given over here. Okay, let's look at the options. Option A, a life that offers interesting experiences that make you question what life is. So this is a new idea altogether. This goes out of context. Option B, any novel experience that affect us cognitively. Author did not talk about affecting us cognitively, right? This also goes out. Option C, a life that is filled with learning opportunities that makes us an expert in particular area. So learning opportunities is something discussed, but making an expert is something of a new idea. So this also goes out. So option A, B, C are eliminated. Option D, a life that is filled with novel experiences, which changes our view of what a good life is. Author was not discussing good life over here, was talking about the psychologically rich life. So D also eliminated. Option E, a life where novel experiences result in a fundamental change to our existing views. And that is what author discussed by bringing in the profound changes in the perspective. Hence, the answer is option E. Question number 19. Which of the following statements can be best concluded from the passage? Let's look at the options. A psychologically rich life is good life. Author did not discuss it. That psychological life is good life. Option B, a bad experience can enrich someone psychologically. Yes, this is given because when he discussed about that the person is having chronic disease or unemployment or infertility, or if the person is suffering but still getting some experience that shapes the understanding of the person or of the self or the world, then it is a psychologically rich life. So this is something which is given to us, so I can hold it. Option C, an unpleasant experience can enable a good life. Again, good life is not discussed, psychologically rich life is discussed. Option D, a good life should not be seen in binary terms. Author nowhere discusses that what can be seen in black and white, or having or not having. So this also goes out. Option E, life need not be good but can still be psychologically rich. This is too generic, author never discusses it, so this also goes out. Hence the answer is option B. Even if you look at E, it sounds like a close option to some of the students, but if you understand, this is a vague inference. This is too generic, not right away coming from the paragraph. Hence, the answer is option B. Let's move to question number 20. So, as we know, XAT is all known about the passages, so a lot of passages we will find on the test. Let's read the passage first, and then we'll move ahead. So, what RN does for us is to remind us that publicness is an important to our flourishing, as our sociability and our privacy. She draws a distinction between what it means to act socially and what it means to act politically. The social realm of undead is both the context where all our basic survival needs are permitted to appear in public and also the realm of behavior. One of the things she fears about modern societies is that society focused on how we behave and what we will permit for ourselves and others becomes the realm of conformism. So, what the author is saying, that this person, she's fearing about modern society because society has certain norms and these norms turns into conformism. This is worrying not just because we don't really get vibrant societies out of conformism and sameness, but also, Arun says, because there's a risk that we think that is this is all there is to give our living together. We lose ourselves in the task of managing behavior and forget that our true public task is to act and to distinguish ourselves in doing so. The risk, says Arendt, is therefore that we confuse behavior with action, that in modern liberal societies, behavior replaces action as the foremost mode of human relationship. This confusion can happen in any area of our modern lives and institutions, secular or faith based, none is immune. She wants to drive home the point that the healthy public life requires we do not just see ourselves as social actors, but also as fully public persons, committing to judging and acting as members of common world we want to inhabit and pass on. Arden tells us that public action is action in which we stand out, are individuated, become in some way excellent in a manner that is subject, that is of service to others and a greater good. This is the space where we take risk, subject our common life to scrutiny, seek justice that sometimes requires us to transgress what seems like accepted laws in order to be increasingly open to the claims and needs of other humans, ones who are not our household and our kin. So again, here, if you understand, the passage is about a person describing what is publicness, about the social norms, how social norms derive a person's life and all that. Okay, let's look at the question. The question says, according to the passage, who can be categorized as a public person? So first of all, we need to understand who is a public person, right? Who is a public person? The passage discusses that. Okay, let's look at the options to understand how does it work. Okay. While the context says a public person is somebody who's working for the greater good of the society, that is discussed in the second paragraph. So let's look at option. Option A, an NGO and employee who was tasked to lead a campaign against tribal land acquisition. Okay. Now here, this seems like a good option So let's hold it for the time being. Option B, a wildlife photographer who highlighted the plight of poverty-stricken migrants by posting the picture. If we look at option B, this person is posting the picture of migrants and seek justice. So this is also, he's a person who is helping the society, doing a greater good. So let me hold this one also. Option C, an online fraud victim who ran a campaign against online fraudster. So if you understand, he's running a campaign against online fraudsters. He's a victim, so he's more concerned about him, not about the society a lot. Since he was a victim, that's why he's doing so. Option D, a parent who organized protest against the random fee hike by a local school. The same is happening. This person, the parent is a victim, and consequently, he's running this campaign or running the protest. So he's not doing it for the greater good, rather, he's concerned about himself. Option E, a local politician who filed RTA applications to unearth financial scams by a village panchayat. So this is also doing a greater good. So if we understand option A, B, E, all three are related to doing greater good for the society. What we need to understand here, then how do I differentiate between a public person, right? Here, if you understand option A and option E, these are the people, whose job is this. If an NGO employee was leading a campaign, it is his job. He's not doing it out of his own desire, to use the right word. So option A and E, it's more of the person's responsibility or the job requirement to do so. So the best answer available would be option B. Let's look at next question. Based on the passage, which of the following options best describes public action? So public action, as the passage says, is the space where we take risk, subject our common life to scrutiny, seek justice in order to be increasingly open to claims and needs of other humans. So this is what is the public spaces more like. So let's look at options. Acting based on core belief, on our core belief, while being mindful of what society thinks. So core beliefs is one thing, being mindful of society is something which is not discussed here. So that goes out. Option B, acting for a just cause regardless of what society thinks about it. Since the author says that this is the area where we take risk, so it goes regardless of the society. Consequently, we can hold option B. Option C, acting in a way that is perceived to be antisocial. Not necessarily author discusses that this is antisocial always. Option D, acting based on a conviction regardless of what society thinks. We can still hold it because it's our conviction regardless of, again, this part, regardless of what society thinks, is out of context, but let's hold it for the time being. Option E, acting in a way that is seen acceptable. So acceptability is not the criteria. Out of B and D, the best answer is option B because here the concern is a cause, not conviction. So what I believe is one thing, but it has to relate to cause, not the conviction of a person. Right? So let's move to next question, which is question number 22. The question states that, which of the following is the best reason for focusing on behavior instead of acting in public? So if we understand, the question states, it's clearly given to us that as we live together, we become socially dependent. We focus on the way how people accept us. So why is behavior important? Because we have to live in this society, right? And we have to be a part of society. Okay, so let's start with option E. The foundation of any vibrant society is based on cooperation, not confrontation. So this is not the part of behavior, goes out. Okay. Option D, to survive is not to distinguish ourselves from others. Survival was never the question. Again, option C, our focus is to survive and not to flourish. So again, survival, flourishing, not discussed. Option B, our fear of being called out on our imperfect thoughts leads us to behave. Author never discusses that imperfect thoughts were something which lead us to behave. So, and this fear of being called imperfect, rather it is being assimilated into society, which is being discussed. Okay. Option A, we are dependent on each other, leading to focus on what is accepted by others. Answer is A. So, if you understand here, somewhat here, he starts discussing from here to here. Okay. Let's look at the next question. The question is, read the poem carefully and answer the two questions that follow. So there's a poem and we are supposed to answer. Okay, let's look at this. It hurts to walk on new legs. It hurts to walk on new legs. The curse of consonants, the wobble of vowels, and you for whom I give up a kingdom can never love that thing I was. When you look into my past, you see only weeds and scales. Once I had voice, now I have legs. Sometimes I wonder, was it a fair trade? So, what is the context of the first thing is that we should understand the context. So, the poet is mentioning some sort of pain in this poem, and he's wondering that whatever changes have come into his life, are these good? Were they fair? So we have to understand what the author is trying to state. The poet is mentioning some pain, he's mentioning the sacrifices the person made for someone. Because when he says, when you look into my past, you see only weeds and scales. Once I had voice, now I have legs. So, the earlier it's like a lot of changes has come to the poet's life, and he's talking about, what are problems has he gone through and was it a fair trade? Okay, so let's look at this. The question says, which of the following statements best reflects the theme of poem? So we have to understand the theme of poem. Okay, what was the theme? Initially, it says, it hurts to walk on new legs. The curse of consonants, the wobble of walls. And if you, for whom I gave up the kingdom. So for whom the author gave up something, can never love that thing I was. So he was something, he changed something for somebody. Okay, so let's look at options. Option A, our concern for loss is more than what we gain. Author did not gain anything, so this goes out of context. Option B, our quest for love is accompanied with pain. Though it seems a bit far-flung, but we can hold it because he's talking about the pain he's going through. Maybe the love, because when he said that I gave the kingdom and I loved like anything, I loved you like anything. So we can hold it. Option C, our loss of identity is irreparable. This is a new idea not discussed in the paragraph. As the future unfolds, our distant past looks pleasant, but author did say that my past was pleasant, but my present is bad. He didn't discuss about future. So this also goes out. Option E, nostalgic recollection undermines materialistic gains. Author did not talk about any materialistic gain that he got. So the best available option would be option B. Let's look at question number 24. The question says, what does the author best mean by once I had a voice, now I have legs? So if we comprehend it, the author is talking about the changes that has come in his life. So let's look at options. Let's begin with option E. The poet is indecisive about choosing between the two worlds. The author is not choosing, the author is comparing his past and present, so goes out. Option D, the poet's actions speak louder than his or her words now. So actions and words are not discussed, again goes out. Option C, the poet puts less value on the new world. It's not about having the less value on the new world, rather, the author is discussing his problems or the pain that he's going through right now. So this also goes out. The poet has lost his or her speech. Sounds like correct because the first part says, once I had voice, but it has no context relating to the second part, now I have legs. Option A, the poet is contemplative of his or her identity. Now, if you understand this, option A is the best answer because the author is concerned about his identity when he talks about this. Now I had once I had voice, now I have legs. So he's comparing his past and present. He's talking about his identity. So the best available answer is option A. Let's move to next question. Question number 25. The question says, which of the following conditional sentences are grammatically incorrect? So we're looking for incorrect sentences. Sentence 1. If Sandhya had started from hotel on time, she would have not missed the flight. So the conditional is correct. If is there, had is there, would is there, so I can hold it. This is a correct one. The students wouldn't have completed their assignments even if the professor would have been there. A sentence cannot have two words if we're talking about a conditional. So sentence 2 is an incorrect sentence. And if I look at option 2 being incorrect, so A goes out, B goes out, and D goes out. And since 1 is correct, so E also goes out. The best available option would be option C. Similarly, if you look at 3, I had traveled across the Europe if I weren't afraid of aeroplane crashes. So the correct one would be I would have traveled. It cannot be had traveled. It should be I would have traveled across Europe. Similarly, if you look at fourth sentence, Saurabh won't join music classes unless his father asks him. It cannot be will ask. It should be asks him. Let's move to next question. Question number 26. So again, a small passage here. So the question says, the passage reads, laboring is simply what we do to survive. We labor to eat, to keep our bodies healthy, to keep roof over our heads, and to keep life reproducing. All animals labor, with or without coaxing. There's nothing special about labor, save for the fact that without it, we would die. Work, on the other hand, gives collective meaning to what we do. When we work to produce something, we both put something into and leave something lasting in the world. A table, a house, a book, a car, a rug, a high precision piece of engineering with which we can order the days into time or keep a body breathing. So the question is, what can be best concluded from the paragraph? So here, if we understand the paragraph was discussing, the main idea was what is labor, right? Rather, we would say what labor leads to what? So laboring leads to survival, to eating, to keep bodies healthy. And on other hand, it can also means collecting the things. No, this can be collecting the materialistic things or keep a body breathing, right? So if we understand, we have to look for something that labor leads to what. Okay, let's start with option E. Terrace gardening is labor while producing a vaccine is work. If we understand this, author nowhere discussed the difference between the labor and the work. Okay. Option E is rather more of an example than the main idea. So it goes out. Option D. To be healthy needs labor, while making others healthy is a work. So we understand this idea, the second idea, is a work, is not discussed. The same applies to option C. What is work is not given to us, right? Option B, doing what is asked of a role is labor, while going beyond the role is work. Again, author does not discuss this, right? So best available answer is option A, right? So it says labor enables us to survive while work makes survival meaningful, right? Because in the second fragment, he discusses what we work to produce. The difference between labor and work is that the work produces things which are meaningful. Okay. The context of work is given, and only in that sense that laboring leads to something which leads to survival, while working means something to get things which are lasting in the world. Okay, so the best answer is option A. Now, if I look at this particular test, there were certain questions which should have been attempted logically to get to meet the cutoff. Question number 1 should be attempted. 2 should have been attempted. It's not very difficult. Question number 3 is again an easy question. 4th might go difficult for some people, but yes, it's not that difficult. Question number 5 is an easy question. 6th must attempt. 7th could have been tricky because 5, 3, 2 people can make, but after that, arranging the remaining 2 becomes a challenge sometimes. Question number 8, same problem here. So 2, 1, 4 is easy, but then arranging 5 and 3 can become problematic for some people. Question 9, if I talk about it, it's a medium level question. A person, if good at reading passage, should attempt it, right? Question number 10 is a question where one could have attempted it. It's just that you need to be a bit more sure of the answer by eliminating. Here, selection won't work. 11th question, easy to attempt, or if you identify the location, where is it mentioned? Same applies to 12, right? Question number 13. Easy if you eliminate. So it's a question which one should attempt. 14th question is a tricky question. People may get confused with option A and B. So unless and until you're very sure, attempt it, otherwise leave it. Question number 15. If you identify the location, becomes easier to identify. So one should attempt it. 16th, not that clear. Sometimes it leads to confusion. So leave it. 17th is a clear-cut question. So one should attempt it. 18th is again clearly mentioned in the paragraph. The passage is a bit difficult, but the questions were simple. One should attempt it. 19th is again something which is clearly mentioned, so one should attempt it. 20th question, not that clear in the passage, so one should avoid it. 21st is also something we should avoid it. 22, one should avoid it since people get confused with behavior and acting, right? 23 is a case of elimination. So if you eliminate it carefully, it's an easy question. One should attempt it. 24th, one should attempt it. 25th, if and only if you know conditional sentences, then attempt it. Otherwise, it's a tricky job. 26 is again a bit confusing, so one should avoid it. So all in all, if you look at all the questions, one could have attempted question number 1, 2, 3, 5. So almost around 13 questions could have been attempted out of 26 if you have been carefully eliminating everything. So thank you guys for listening to me. I think this video is useful for you, right? Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.